Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the ATI podcast. We're in here for episode 124. And this week's guest and artist spotlight is a very special one, that is. We've got the Lord of Illusions, Brennan Wilkinson himself from Squint. How are we doing, Brennan?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful, man. We're so happy to have you back on the show. I've been really excited and pumped with all the new singles coming out for the upcoming album, Big Hand, for you guys. And I know kind of where we left the conversation off the last time you were on the show was the fact that you guys had recorded recently with the current legend, I should say, Jon Markson. And a lot of cool singles were to come. And now we are enjoying those 3 singles that are out currently.
We got, I think, one more single we're dropping between then and now. So just keep an ear out for that and check out the new songs. And it's been fun playing them. And we've been slowly getting the record out there. Positive feedback so far.
I know that you guys had quite a few different very cool things that have happened since the last time that we've talked to you as well. But of course, want to start off, I know you guys had some US dates and then you went over to Europe. And I'm sure on those trips, you guys experimented with the new material and how it was received. And I know you've already somewhat commented on that. So I'm just kind of excited to hear how those tours went for you guys and maybe a few little road stories and anything else noteworthy and how the new music's being received as well.
The Southeast run, was back in May. Basically, we wanted to hit Florida. I have a longtime friend down there who has always, in the past, he's pretty much, every time I hit him up, his name's Ryan Kingdeski, shout out to him, but every time I hit him up, he with all my previous bands and Squint included, he said offers always on the table. If you come down, I can book you like 4 days in Florida, just hand it to me and I'll handle it for you. So I always had that in the back of my head. So I hit him up about doing that. And then we pretty much booked the rest of the run around that. It just so happened that the time period we were planning on being down there, our friends from Snuffed in Chicago were also coming back through the South. They went down to Texas and were coming back through like middle of the country. So we met up with them in Hattiesburg, Mississippi and played shows with them on the way home from the South. But it was a really cool run. We played in Chattanooga on the way down to Florida and we crossed paths with other Sunday Drive artists, Leaving Time, and then the band Hollow Suns were on tour from Japan. And so it just so happened that we happened to cross paths with them and play in Tennessee with both of them. And then also Gum, who's from Chattanooga. So,
very good,
that was the first show of tour and that was a pretty stacked lineup. And it was really cool, meeting all the Leaving Time guys and talking to them about, all the bands they used to be in and stuff, I knew they were like Florida hardcore kids and stuff. They're around my age, So we both kind of, were talking to each other and being like, wait a minute, you were in that band? I remember that band. That band rocked, So
that's cool.
Yeah. And then meeting Hollow Suns, who, like I said, are label mates from Japan. So, it was cool talking to them and, just having that common bond, that would really, I'll talk more about that, I guess, with the Europe stuff. It was cool just having, meeting someone who is, speaks another language than you and, by most accounts is so different from you, but you have this one unifying bond and, you're just able to be best friends with them right away. So, shout out to Hollow Suns. And if anybody hasn't heard them, check them out. They're that was their first US tour they came over and did with Leaving Time. And now I think they're coming back in a couple months to open for Rival Schools and Webbed Wing on a whole leg of the tour. So it's they're dope.
I've been on a big Gum kick lately myself, actually. It's one of those Convulsive Records bands too. So I'm glad to hear that you guys got to hook up with them. I know they're Chattanooga natives, as you'd mentioned, but that's a band I feel like you guys pair with very nicely. So I'm glad to hear that you guys hooked up.
Yeah, we've played with them multiple times, and a lot of the dudes in that have been very helpful to Squint. We've played with them at Dumb Records in the past, and then multiple festivals. And yeah, I hit up Phil. That show was already existing. The Leaving Time, Hollow Suns Gum show. I hit up Phil, their bassist, and he got us on it, no problem. They're awesome, and they're definitely like down for the chord dudes, you know what I mean? Like, and also, I guess going forward a little bit, but when we were in Europe and everything, they really like Gum over there. I've noticed the drummer of the band we were on tour with wore like a Gum shirt like every night. That was like his show shirt. Then just over the PA multiple times between bands and stuff, I would hear Gum songs and be like, this is sick. This is cool that,
That's awesome.
I knew they'd gone over there before, but it's cool to see your friends' bands, when you're that far from home and stuff. But yeah, Florida was all really cool. I think we did Jacksonville, Miami, Pensacola, and something else. I'm not sure.
Were any of the Florida spots new spots for you?
Yeah, for Squint, at least, I had, in my old band Out of Time, we had done Florida in the past through our friend Ryan, but Squint has never, we've only really done Midwest runs thus far. I guess we went down south to Texas and stuff like that. But yeah, we had, all new stuff for us. So, that being considered, the shows were, pretty good, like, I mean, it's maybe not quite as good as like playing, like Dumb Records or like Dirty Dungarees or something like that, or all these, Midwest venues that feel at home to us at this point. But considering we were that far from home, and we didn't have a ton of people who we thought, knew us out there and stuff like that. There was always kids coming out and singing along, and there was never like a bad show or anything like that, especially compared to how touring used to be. All in all, it was very successful. You could also it's always nice going to new areas like that because you can kind of see like the seed be planted. Like you like meet all these kids, and you're not going to like get through to every one of them or anything like that. But like there are a couple that like you can tell when they're watching the set, even if they don't buy merch or something, it's like you can just tell when they're watching you that they're going to remember you. And, the next time you do come back, it's probably going to be a lot better, at least as far as like a reaction or as far as like they're going to bring more friends and stuff like that. So all that was really cool. We just got back from, it was 17 shows, got over there, a day early, and we left like a day late, I guess. So we were over there for like 19 days overseas. We just got back from our UK and Europe run for the first time. And I just got back, like, I think the last show of the tour was a week ago today. So.
And you guys were playing with Feverchild over there, right?
Yeah, which if nobody listening to this has heard that band, you'd like.
Mandatory listening.
They're an incredible band on recording. And I don't mean to, this almost feels pompous because I feel like a lot of people aren't going to get to see them anytime soon, that are probably hearing this because they're, from overseas. And I think a lot of people listening to this are from the US probably and stuff, but they're just an incredible band live. And like, they have great recordings and stuff like that. But like, I don't know, after seeing them every night, for 17 nights, it's like every single like drum crash and like all of like the inflections and stuff like that they do live,
yeah,
are like burned in my brain. So now when I listen to the recordings and there's just, maybe there's not that little lick that Yordi does, or like, maybe the vocal recording's a slight different, or maybe Jon drops the F-bomb here live and he doesn't do it on the record, but I keep finding myself like going back and listening to just like phone recordings of them on tour, and just like living through that, and they started off the tour playing one new song that they had written recently, and it was so fresh that it didn't have like a title or anything like that, but they were playing that on the tour, and it was just an incredible song. And then halfway through the tour, they were like, one night they were like, we wrote this song in the van the other day, and they started playing another new song, and it was just, it's like,
wow.
I won't share it or anything, but I have a video of it. And like I said, I keep just listening back to it. It's like it's an incredible song, and it's like about missing family back home and stuff like that. And it just hit all right at the right time for me, to the point where every night I was like getting emotional watching them. But,
wow, what an incredible experience.
That and yeah, they're an incredible band, and we're trying to figure out how to get them over to the US right now. I had no idea, but it's apparently pretty hard for bands to they were telling me, that in addition to all the costs like the plane tickets and everything like that,
Right.
work visas would cost them somewhere around like 1,500 euros, which is like probably 1,700 US.
Yeah.
And yeah, for a bunch of, like mid-20s kids, it's hard to, get that much money together and
Yeah.
stuff. But we'll see what happens. They're working with Avocado now. So hopefully
I was trying to
that,
keep up with you guys over there. You were posting stories daily and stuff. I like to kind of live vicariously through those folks that we like to support. Squint, we're big fans over here, as you know. And, I saw some of the stories that you were posting. I saw the Family Guy synopsis. I believe it might have been somebody from
dude.
Feverchild. I know it was on that chore.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, I got it such a good laugh out of that. I had to replay that.
The other person from the other car gets out and it's the chicken. And then they start fighting for the rest of the episode. And that happens every once in a while. It's fucking crazy. The story is gone. The chicken.
It's probably my favorite video from tour is, yeah. And it's just one of those things where it was like, he was already going and I was like, oh shit, I need to film this because, it's so funny. Yeah, their critique of American culture is hilarious. And it was funny meeting them because it was like, at first, my dumb American brain is like, I really hope there's not like a huge language barrier with these guys or anything. And I really hope that I can get to know them by the end of this trip. It would be so cool to have people I can call friends like across the country. And within like the first 10 minutes of meeting them, I'm like, hi, my name's Brennan. How are you? And they're like, why the fuck are you talking to me like that, bro?
Yeah, that's hilarious.
They're like, you're a fucking weirdo, man. And then they're just like cracking, they're like setting up merch the first night and being like, keep an eye on Squint. These Americans will just steal it from us, and, it took like 20 minutes of, for them to be like ribbing us and stuff like that. And also just, it was awesome, like meeting up with them. Like we're like introducing ourselves and they're like laughing at how we're saying their names and stuff like that.
Sure.
Like,
I think I even got a bigger kick out of the whole Family Guy thing. Because like the last time you were on the show, I asked you if you're a fan of adult animation. You were like, I'm not a Family Guy stan or anything, and then that was the story that you posted. And then he was like rehashing the whole Peter Griffith against the chicken stuff. And he's like, they just keep fighting and it's the rest of the episode. They just totally disregard the story. And he was just getting so excited about it. And I was just, dude, I seriously ran that back like 5 times and just laughed so hard at that.
I told him like the next morning, I was like, people are loving this Family Guy video, bro. And he's like, thanks, man. It felt very akin to all of them in different ways. You know what I mean? But me and Jan had this like singer,
Sure.
I would talk to him a lot about I would talk to them all a lot and goof off with them all. But he was the one that I was mostly talking kind of, actual like artist to artist with and being like, dude, I love like your lyrics, and the fact that you're playing these new songs every night that are not recorded and I know every word to them like says a lot about you as a vocalist, and like how catchy your cadences are and like how just like accessible your lyrics are, because I mean, English isn't his first language and that's what he writes in, and so it's like, when he's coming up with catchier stuff or more clever stuff than I do, and it's like this is like his third language or something. I'm like, damn, bro, you've got bars, man.
Yeah, it's always impressive how other countries take that approach, though. Too, you'd mentioned this earlier. You're like, I was just kind of being a gullible American, but it's not uncommon in a lot of other countries, especially in Europe, that they speak 2 and 3 languages. And English is almost like a must, just because of European trade and things over the years as well, even if they're not from the UK themselves.
That really highlighted to me just how like kind of ignorant we are over here. And just
you're right.
The fact that like everywhere we walked into, we just assumed they spoke English, and we were usually right, but it's still like, it's such a pompous way to go about things. And then also cause I noticed with Jan, Jan specifically, I noticed when we were by like day like 14 of being on tour with him, and, we were in like France together, we were in England together, we were in the Netherlands together, we were in Germany together, and finally I was just like, how many languages do you speak, dude? He said like, he speaks French, Flemish, because that's, I guess the 2 languages they speak in Belgium, it's half
Yeah.
French, half Flemish. And then, German, English, I don't know, some other shit, and I was just like, damn, dude. I was like, I just speak English, I mean, I took a
Yeah.
little bit of German in high school. I've never considered myself like able to speak German or anything, but
Sure.
it did come in handy when I was over there, like I still remember like the numbers.
Those early foundational experiences are helpful in those instances for sure. Like I have the same experience with like Spanish. Like I can kind of somewhat comprehend what's happening, but I couldn't speak it fluently.
Now I want to learn more, at least more just like base words of languages
Sure.
and stuff like that, just because, I mean, number one, like it does, so I can communicate when I go to those places. But like number two, like it really like, not that, I've always been pro immigration and stuff like that. I don't want to make it seem like I'm against that, but like it really made me feel for people that are in this country and don't
Sure.
speak English, like, or it's their a distant second language or anything. It's like, I've never been put in that situation before where like I essentially feel like helpless, and like someone's being like, hey man, I got you. I can help you. I know what you're saying. I can help you find the venue when your phone dies. Cause that happened a couple times to a couple of us, where it's like,
Oh, wow.
I didn't factor things out. My phone's dead. I've wandered too far from the venue and I'm in Mannheim, Germany. Luckily, you find people that are helpful and stuff. It makes me want to be that person when I am here, especially, in a city like St. Louis where, like, I live in like a very heavy Bosnian neighborhood, and just even learning things like, hello numbers and stuff like that, I feel like is just respectful and also, can really bridge a lot of gaps between people,
Absolutely. I think there's a lot of people don't
Yeah,
realize that there is a bit of a Bosnian community in St. Louis too. And, that happened like during the Bosnian War. St. Louis was like a refuge city and we took in a lot of refugees, and like a lot of folks don't know or recognize that about St. Louis, but I think it's actually pretty special.
Yeah. I live in Bevo Mill, so I'm like, right in the heart of it all. And
Yeah, absolutely.
like all my favorite bakeries and stuff like that down the street are all, Bosnian ran and stuff. And, yeah, it's just, it'd be nice to learn, like I said, even just common courtesy things like hello or how are you and stuff like that. And just, to, try and make people feel safer and, cause it certainly made me feel more,
Accepted
protected and like,
yeah.
And just, especially, once we got to some of those more kind of like Eastern European countries and stuff, it was very much like, I don't know what to tell you, Yankee, but we ain't speaking whatever you're fucking speaking. So just, like
That's
they
great.
definitely didn't care for Americans as much. And like, cause at the beginning of for the majority of the tour, we played like very like large cities, and it wasn't until the last couple of days that we kind of played a couple smaller town areas in like Germany and stuff, like the kind of little towns where you'd see like, the typical, like stereotypical, like, green hat, like Lederhosen, big stein of beer guy. Those shows were just as awesome as the big cities were. And it was funny because we were sitting there being like, we were looking at it on like Zwiesel, Germany we played, and we were looking at it on like a map, and it said, population like 9,000 or something. And we were like, we're like, where are we playing tonight? We were like asking the band we were on tour with, and they're like, I don't know, bro. I've never heard of this. And asking our driver from the Czech Republic, and he's like, I've never driven a band here, But we were like in the van figuring it out, and we were like, maybe this is going to be like the dumb records of Germany. You know what I mean? Sometimes those people in the small towns, especially you see it a lot in the Midwest,
Definitely.
Like, not that Springfield's necessarily a small town, but those towns where there's nothing else to do, sometimes the hardcore scene just thrives. Yeah, sure enough, that night there was like kids jumping off the rafters of the, building into the crowd, and kids stage diving like crazy. And
that's awesome.
The small towns sometimes get slept on.
Absolutely. We had a music scene here briefly in the Farmington area where I'm pretty much natively from somewhat. Lived most of my life in this area, and unfortunately it died out a few years back. But yeah, we would have bands come through and they'd be genuinely surprised that what type of scene that we had here in the turnout, but it was kind of goes back to what you were talking about. There wasn't a lot else to do in the surrounding area, and people were showing up and showing out at shows and getting a lot of support to touring bands, buying merch, getting them to their next city, giving them places to stay at, providing food. And so that's the type of community that always excites me hearing about, whether it's happening here or half across the globe as well. I'm happy to hear that that's taking place over there as well, especially you guys going into such uncertainty, man. I can imagine you're pretty nervous about that.
Yeah. It honestly, it went a lot better than I thought it was going to. I didn't think it was going to go bad or anything like that. Financially, it all worked out very well for us. It worked out well for Feverchild, which was, important and good to,
Absolutely.
And yeah, the shows, it was just like, I was telling my coworkers about my day to day because they were like, "Are you happy to be home?" And I was like, "I miss my girlfriend and my dog, but I would much rather be on the road right now." And they were like, basically like, "Don't you get tired of traveling and, just tired in general?" And I was like, "Yeah, I mean, you do, but like, just my list of like my to-do list for the day is just so much simpler, when I'm on the road." And
sure,
I mean, we had a driver, so
that helps.
We leaned into that a lot, where it was like, maybe it'd be like 1 a.m. after the show, and we'd be getting to the hotel, and we'd be like, "All right, we're gonna get up at 7 a.m. Tomas, are you cool with that?" To the driver, and he was just like, I mean, he was an absolute boss as far as like, he was a cool ass dude, but his job, first and foremost was to drive us, and he did his job, Like, we'd be out at the bar till like 2 a.m. and be like, "All right, we got to get up at 6 a.m. Are you going to be good, Tomas?" And he's like, "Yes, I will be good," and then
that's great.
Sure enough, like we'd get up at 6 a.m. and we'd all be like, groggy as hell. And we'd be like, "Tomas is going to be like, done for. He was more tore up than any of us last night." And then we walk outside and he'd just be like smoking a cigarette by the van, like ready to go,
right. I love it.
But, so for the most part, we'd do like half our sleeping in the quarters, like either the hotel or wherever we were put up for the night. And then we'd get up at like 7 a.m. and drive to the place, and we'd all sleep in the van, drive to the next city, get there at like 11 a.m. in like, Budapest or Berlin or wherever it was.
Yeah.
And then just like, explore the city until sound check. And then, yeah, we usually have Tomas drop us off in like the city center of wherever we were. And then he would just go to the venue and either walk around there or sleep or, just because, he's been in all these cities multiple times. He's not like us where we're just like trying to spend tourist money and stuff like that. He's at work, so he's just like, "I'm trying not to spend money. I'm here so I can make money."
Right.
But it was really convenient because he would just, take the van to the venue and wait for us pretty much. And sound check would be like 3 or 4. So we'd, spend a couple of hours in the city centers, walking around, sightseeing, taking the subway places. And then we'd usually take transit, or worst case scenario, like take an Uber or something. But transit's so nice over there, that you can pretty much get anywhere like within the hour. So, we took, a lot of trains and a lot of buses and stuff like that. But, we'd see the city center, and then we'd go to sound check, and then we'd walk around the venue, like wherever that area was. Sometimes it would still be in city center, but, from sound check to the show. And, you pull to the venue and you're playing like a squat in Germany, and it's like, you do your sound check and you leave and you're like looking at this big room and you're like, "I really hope people show up tonight." I'm in a city that I've never even heard of before. And like, then you walk around with your friends for a while and get some food and stuff and come back. And it was just every night, it was just like a full room. And it was just like, holy crap, and
that's great.
There was a couple nights, we played without locals. And it was just Feverchild and Squint on the bill in like, like Manchester. And there was still a packed room of people. And that was really like,
that's awesome.
The first couple of nights I was just like, damn, there's a lot of kids here. Like, thank God we're playing with some good locals, that must be why they're out here,
Right.
And, then when that was taken out of the equation, it was like, very humbling to be like, a lot of these people are definitely here to see either one of our bands, which is like pretty impressive,
Absolutely.
And then just the fact that every night there was kids singing along, like I love having kids like moshing and like, having a good time and enjoying the music like in real time. But when I see like a kid singing along, that really is just like, it's like, this person listened before they were in this room, like,
yes,
it's nice when someone enjoys it in the moment because that's what it's intended for. But like, it really truly means a lot when someone else is like, when you can see that someone's listening to it outside of that room and, And then a lot of the time, yeah, they like, it's not like they didn't know what they were singing, you know what I mean? But it was like, they'd come up to talk to me after the show and, you know, they were not confident in their English, you know, stuff like that. But it's like, you know, it's crazy how, yeah, music can transcend all that. And then also
Absolutely.
just being there and thinking about how, you know, like this was such like I never thought in high school, like that I would be doing this off of hardcore music, you know? Like
Right.
I was actually like sitting there thinking about how like when I was younger, like seeing Half Heart tour like all 7 continents of the world or something was like the
Yeah.
craziest thing that I could have ever like comprehended. You know, that was like the absolute like you made
Play in
it as a
Africa.
hardcore band. Yeah.
Play in
And
Africa.
I mean, obviously, yeah, Europe's a little bit different than that. It's not quite as
Sure.
extreme, but it's still just like by my merit as a child, I think you know, to an extent, it's like, damn, I made it. You know what I mean? I'm doing what I wanted to do. I'm seeing the world through like because of something that I care about pretty much
Sure.
more than anything in the world. You know?
Absolutely.
So it's like, and yeah, it was just very assuring that I, you know, didn't waste
Yeah.
all this time in my life for nothing.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm a big believer in experiences and what they do for a person in general. And I think as we get out and we open up those blinders in life, I had a college professor make this analogy to me once, or this characterization, that you all are kids, you're coming into my class, you're bright-eyed, bushy-tailed. This is your vision right now. As you start to have experiences in life, that vision's going to start to get wider and wider and wider, and your periphery on life is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. I'll be damned if that wasn't the truth. You know, the more
Yeah.
experiences I had in life, it opened up my worldview. And I could just imagine an experience like that for you, how awakening it was. And I'm really glad to hear that you guys took full advantage of the opportunity as well, in the sense that, you know, you had the driver drop you off in the middle of town. So then you would kind of experience, you know, what it is in daily life, even if it was just standing around and observing other people, or it was doing the tourist
Yeah.
stuff, or taking in some of the local eats, or whatever the case is. You know, that's just expanding your worldview. And to me, there's nothing more enriching in life than that. You know, having an appreciation and experiencing other cultures and that sorts of things.
You know, it highlighted how ignorant I was to a lot of, you know, these places prior to it. Like you know, when I saw we were playing like the Czech Republic, you know, or something like that, I was like, you know, picturing like just things I'd seen in movies, you know what I mean? And like, I was just, you know,
Sure.
it was very, you know, for some reason I had said this prior, I think, but like, I didn't even know Budapest was like in Europe. It was in like, I don't
Yeah.
know, like whenever I've heard it in the past, I don't know, I've pictured somewhere more in like the Middle East or something. And so
Sure.
actually like putting, I don't know, you know, just little things like that where it's like, I've never really
Yes.
bothered to learn like world geography because I never thought I was going to leave the country. You know, it's just, like I
Sure.
said, it really has highlighted so much of my ignorance and just like the world doesn't feel as big, you know, as
Yeah.
you're like taught it is, you know what I mean? And,
Absolutely.
you know, like all the differences that you like hear about on like a daily basis, you know, whether it's like, you know, whether you believe in it or not, you know, it's just like shit you see on Twitter, you know, that are, you
Right.
know, like saying, you know, how different everybody, you know, like telling you to be scared of other people and stuff like that. And then you go actually, you know, when you're like, you know, the not immigrant, but you know what I mean? When you're like the foreign person in a place
Sure.
like that, you really, you know, you start to see from like that perspective. And, you know, you also just understand that like, you know, not everybody in the world is like your enemy, like it's made out to be sometimes. And like American, you know, social media and stuff like that. I don't, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like
Yeah.
it's just,
For sure. I get you.
like I said, not that I have ever like adhered to any of that in the past, but really it just, it's like eye opening. And it's like, I wish
Yeah.
everybody in the world had this experience because then you
Yeah.
wouldn't be as scared of what you
Sure.
don't know, you know?
And it's hard not to be influenced by that phenomenon that you're talking about, even if it's not what your belief systems are, because there's such a concentration and inundation right now, I think, of the separation of people and ideals, and we all really have more in common, especially whenever we just apply a little bit of empathy or try to walk in somebody else's shoes, for sure. And Hungary, Budapest, that's like one of the biggest cities in the entire world too. A lot of people don't realize. Specifically, I want to ask how the show was there, because I'm just kind of curious, like what the venue was like and what that experience was like.
It was really cool. The venue, especially, there was like, you know, we were like sitting in the green room and I'm looking at the walls and I keep looking closer, you know, and it's like nothing like super crazy, but you know, it was like Cancer Bats '08 or something, you know, or like,
Damn,
Shook Ones '07, you know, just like old stuff like
that's
that,
cool.
like old Bent Live stuff, old like Crown of Thorns stuff, you know, like there's all
Fuck
kinds
yeah.
of like blasts from the past, you know, that I was like, you know, taking pictures and sending to my friends being like,
Yeah,
hey, you were here in 2017, you know, and like, you know, doing like a squint tag next to it or whatever. But
that's
yeah,
cool.
the show itself was cool. The city was like absolutely beautiful, you know,
Yeah.
and that was one of the shows where the local, there wasn't like zero local, but they dropped last minute, you know, there was supposed to be one,
Mhm.
but I think the singer got ill that day or whatever. It ended up just being us and Feverchild, but it was still, probably like 60 to 70 people in a room. And
Yeah.
Budapest was really cool. I think my favorite shows probably of the tour were like Utrecht in the Netherlands
Mhm.
was really cool. That was the first night that I think the crowd was kind of crazy enough that we had the moment you long for on a tour where kids are just like moshing, going crazy in the crowd, and the band you're on tour with are just like all stage diving, you know what I mean? And just,
Yeah.
like, I don't want to say like utilizing the crowd, but they're just like fully letting loose. And so that night was really fun that, the crowd was just going wild. And then I'd be like, damn, that kid just hit a sick stage dive. And I'd look up and it was like Glenn from Feverchild. And I was just like, this is the best,
That's great. That's great. You mentioning Feverchild again, and you were actually starting to make this point earlier, and I didn't want it to get lost in the shuffle as well, as the fact that, some people have a different experience with a band live, and I feel like we're kindred spirits on this, and that is, the recordings can sound great all day long, but can you replicate that live? Can you bring an energy or a nuance or another layer to what you are as a band in a performance? And it sounds like Feverchild's doing that, but, you and I talked back a few months ago, I think it was now, at the Space Show, and friends of yours, Full Stride, was playing, and I hadn't checked them out yet. And you were like, "Oh man, you're gonna love these guys," and sure enough, I did. So thank you for that. But anywho,
Yeah.
I intentionally now it's like the only way for me to kind of like tap into some feelings that I had as a young showgoer back in the day in the 2000s, and that was, you would go to shows and you weren't aware of the other bands that were playing. So, and now with the advances of technology and having everything at your fingertips, if a band's on a bill that you're not familiar with, you can immediately Google that band, look them up on Spotify, go to Bandcamp, whatever, check out their music and get an idea of what they are going for. But I've also had many experiences in life that I've seen a band live and I've actually enjoyed them way more than what I heard on a recording, because really what it is I say the shorthand is I get it now. I get it. I get what they're going for, what kind of energy they're trying to tap into and that sort of stuff. And more times than not, I find myself liking a band, having seen them live versus hearing a recording. So I can kind of stumble upon that surprise again, I guess is the point I'm trying to make, whenever I can go see a band that I'm not familiar with live and then I like them and I'm a fan, then I can go back and enjoy the recordings. And I had that experience with Full Stride specifically, but it was kind of like the reverse. You'd heard Feverchild, but then you got the experience of touring with them and playing live. So I'm glad to hear that they brought so much more beyond what you were already a fan of too.
Yeah, no, their live performance is very different than ours as far as like they actually don't really like stage diving during their set and stuff like that. Not that I think that because they're all like hardcore people and stuff like that, and they all like play in, hardcore bands on the side and stuff like that.
Sure.
Not all of them, I shouldn't say. A couple of them are pretty, just like Squint, it's like a couple of us are more initiated than others as far as that. But
sure.
But they all do come from that background, But they had just said, they were like, our first couple of shows, all our friends were stage diving, and it was cool, but like our music, like I think they were pretty much saying that their music doesn't like really like build to like
constitute
it's just
that.
like you're just like stage diving, then it's like, all right, what was that for? You know what I mean? There's no like big sing along part or anything. Or a lot of times they're big builds to, you could like see it in the crowd at night, It'd be building to what kids would think would be a mosh part, and then it just like cuts out and it's like a beautiful Sunny Day Real Estate type riff, And like you could see kids would start getting all hyped up in the crowd, and then it would just be the pretty riff instead of a mosh part like they thought it was going to be, and they would just like kind of look at each other and it's like, yeah, I get it.
I love it.
But I love seeing that too every night, because when you could see kids that were moshing to the unmoshable parts, you were like, all right, they're gonna go nuts the second Squint gets up there, and I'm like,
right,
all right, time to cut loose. This is the two-step part. This is the part I want you doing this.
Kind of directed traffic up there.
That's what, Feverchild were like, bro, that was like Simon Says tonight, man. You were up there just like, you do this, you do this, you do this. And kids were just going wild. And I was like, yeah, man, that's what you got to do. But it created like a good dichotomy every night with like Feverchild playing before us.
Yeah.
And then, you could see just like, not tension building, but, people's like, the songs build in a way that like, it's almost, like you never get that release. And then, it was nice that Squint would get up there and just be like, the way their tone is live and the way that certain things, just there'd be nights I'd just be like, I don't know. There was one night specifically in Berlin that I was front row during Feverchild, and I was just had my eyes closed and I was singing so hard, just singing along to Jon, and I was just, like, and I kind of felt something, and I stopped and I looked over across the front row, and Ian, my guitarist, was just like holding a beer, like looking at me like, are you okay, bro? Kind of face. And I was just like, so embarrassed. But he caught me getting getting pretty in my
Getting the
feelings,
feels.
but
Yeah.
it's just I can't like emphasize enough how like they're literally like the best emo band doing it right now. Like
That's awesome.
if you like, like Sunny Day Real Estate, like Clarity Era, like Jimmy Eat World, like all that kind of stuff. It's just like wrapped up nice and tight, and then like all the fat trimmed off it. It's like they just got a new guitarist who this dude Yoram plays for them now, and he was just like I said, I connected with all of them in like a different way.
Mhm.
And like their guitarist Theobald, he plays in a couple other like hardcore bands and shit. You could tell looking at him right away that he's like the hardcore dude in the band, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So him and I just connected immediately on like, like old locking out stuff. And
Nice.
it was funny, like the first like 5 minutes of meeting him, he was like, who do you think is the most overrated hardcore band? And I was like, you're trying to get me in trouble, bro. Come on,
What'd you say? What'd you say?
I don't even remember.
What did he say? Do you remember?
He just agreed with me, whatever it is that I said.
I was hoping for some hot takes. I always love hot
No,
takes.
I don't ever want to, diminish anybody or anything like that.
Sure. I get you.
There's also, it's one of those things where it's, to me, I don't know, it's like overrated is not necessarily bad. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
just because something's not for me doesn't mean it's not for someone else. So I'm never like, that's a
For
bad
sure.
band. I'll just be like, I don't like that band, just because I don't like that band,
Yeah.
whoever it is.
Yeah.
But
It's not for me.
yeah. But
yeah, I find myself getting older. I'm more like that. It's like I don't want the energy to like shit or piss on something. Like why,
Yeah.
and people they're doing this passionately. It's something they believe in. Like who am I to say that that's wrong? So
Exactly.
it's either just for me or it's not. And I definitely don't have an encouragement to shit on anything publicly. It's a different story though. I feel like it's all fair game if they're pieces of shit. Like, so if we're talking like Trapped or something like that, I think they're in the crosshairs, people being bad people and doing bad things. I think it's okay for everybody to shit on that, but that's a different story.
No,
right?
no, totally. I mean, I don't, it's not even, like a regard for feelings kind of thing. It's more, just like, what's the purpose of this? And,
right.
And also, it's one of those things where like, if I am going on the merit of like, like if I'm saying a band's bad, then I'm saying they're not writing good songs, which like I listen to a whole genre that's built around not needing to write good, I mean, like it's not that you don't need to write good songs, but they're unconventionally good. You know what I mean? If you showed them to like a music theory person, they would be like, what? Like if you showed them a single Marauder riff, their brain would explode.
Yeah, for sure.
So so to say that something's bad, it's like, well, maybe that's the point of it, which people don't understand either sometimes, is not everything's made to sound good or make you feel good.
Right.
But yeah, Theobald in that band, I really got along with from like a hardcore standpoint. But then Yoram, their other guitarist, him and I were just, like like more like a power pop kind of stuff, I guess, you know what I mean? Like we were constantly just giving each other bands the whole time where, like we were at a show and like a Pavement song was on the PA and I was, singing along to it and air drumming, and I looked over and he's just doing the exact same thing. And, we started talking about that and then start talking about, like the Posies and like,
hell yeah.
Then we started, towards the end and stuff. He's like, you haven't heard this, this record before? And I'm like, no. And he's like, you got to check it out. Like he got me into like Rolling Coastal Blackout Fever or whatever that band's called.
Yeah.
They're just little,
That's cool.
I don't know, little stuff like that. I got this big list from all of them of just bands I had to check out, whether it be like old Belgian bands that had slipped through the cracks or like, just like, stuff like that, or they showed me some American bands that I was unaware of that I was like, damn, this is so sick. Like they showed me Cast Iron Hype.
Okay.
They're like a band from, I guess they were from Boston, but it's like almost like Life of Agony, Only Living Witness kind of stuff. Theobald plays in a band with I think a couple of the people from Rise and Fall.
Oh, really?
And yeah, it's called Force. It's really hard to find the EP on Spotify, but if you look up Force Demo or Force 2017, I think.
Okay.
It's just like Lock It Out style shit. It's awesome. Yeah.
Big Rise and Fall.
They like worship them over there as far as, like, that's what all of Feverchild just kept being like, you ever heard of Rise and Fall? And I was like, yeah,
Goddamn right, son.
But like, what else you got, But no, I was asking that because I really love Justice from over there. And so I was like nerding out to them about Justice, and
that's cool.
They were just all kind of like, we missed that by like a couple years, like Rise and Fall was our band as kids basically, so, which, yeah, a couple of those guys are in like a couple of the guys who are in Rise and Fall are in this band called Wrong Man that are on Sunday Drive Records. And, it's really cool, kind of like, embrace kind of like, weird, like avant-garde hardcore. They're really cool. They're definitely like in the same kind of world as us, but they're a lot more like kind of like give and like like Shudder to Think and just like stuff that's more kind of less regard for melody and more regard for just like weirdness, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're a dope band.
Did you guys have any hostel experiences over there as far as living, nightly quarters or anything?
Yeah, like not like the movie or anything like that.
Obviously, you're still have all your parts and
Well, no, I
alive
mean,
and well, as far as I know, unless you're hostage right now doing this interview.
well, that's what, yeah, we could have, we're looking for a new bassist, but related. No,
Unrelated to that. That's great.
But no, there was a lot of like over there in general, the hospitality is very different. They like accommodate bands like food and like a place to stay is like the standard, in addition to obviously like door money and stuff like that.
Gotcha.
But, it like for the most part, like promoters constantly either made us food or, would like order us food or like, and then, they would either like put bands up at like a hotel, Airbnb, hostel type situation, or sometimes they would have bands stay in like hostels they owned / squats and stuff like that,
Gotcha.
which I had heard about before going over there that, you're going to be staying in some squats and living in St. Louis and having used to go up in like abandoned buildings and stuff like that for like the graffiti days and stuff. Like I have a mental image of what a squat is.
Right.
And these places are very much not like that. From what I understand, it's like pretty much, people taking over, not even an abandoned, technically an abandoned building, but like a freshly abandoned one to where it's, like, all right, no one's taking care of this place. It's been empty for a month. I'm going to move in there. I'm going to generate my own power kind of stuff. And, the government finds out about it and they're just kind of like, this is okay. I could be totally wrong, but from what I understood, that's like how a lot of these places exist,
Yeah.
It's just like, yeah, they're not paying rent on this place, but they're also not like stealing power. They're not doing this. They're not like
Right.
quote unquote leaching off of anything. They're sustaining themselves. So we're just going to look the other way. And
yeah, I think Americans get that image of like Kowloon Walled City or something like that, where it's like if they hear that word squat, they think it's like people living in terrible conditions and things like that. But,
yeah,
it's not
pictured,
really that
like,
actually.
I pictured like where he lived on Fight Club, and I was like, I don't want to stay there. You know what I'm saying? But no, you'd go in there and it'd be, like, damn, this place is clean. Like everything looks like it's been washed recently. And then they'd be like laundry rooms in there. There's a washer and dryer and showers in here. And you're like, damn,
That's cool as fuck.
This is nicer than my place back home. But some nights also we were offered stuff like that, and we would not have to decline it, but it would be one of those things where we have a 6-hour drive to the next city the next day. We want to get a leg up on it.
Sure.
We'd be like, respectfully, like we're going to just drive and get a hotel. But like, and promoters were never like offended or anything like that, which was always nice because we definitely never meant it in like an offensive way,
Sure. Well, I'm sure you guys aren't the first people too that had to get, a leg up on your travel as well, so sometimes it's tight turnarounds.
A lot of times too, especially, a lot of times over there and stuff. And I guess over here too, bands follow the same route. You know what I mean? So,
Right.
It's like, a lot of the times when we were, playing Budapest and the next show was in, Zweezel or whatever, the promoter in Budapest is like, oh yeah, you got Zweezel tomorrow? I get it. Like bands do this all the time. That's always a long drive. You know what I mean? Like, but yeah, it was everything like that as far as like the shows all went super smooth. So,
That's
I
awesome.
don't want to get through this whole call without giving a shout out to Avocado, but they
made it happen.
We found out while we were over there that the agent like that helps us, Matthew, he is the singer for a funeral for a friend.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's what we were all like. That's what we were all like. Holy shit! What?
Wow.
That band meant a lot to us as like middle schoolers, and so actually there was multiple shows that he was trying to make it out to, and just due to issues, the first one there was some kind of like transportation issue, and then I think the second one there was something came up with like family, but so unfortunately we didn't get to actually like physically meet him or anything. We hopped on a lot of like video calls with them, and there's just they're very on it as far as like they really gave us the confidence to come over there and assuring us that everything would be all right financially and we wouldn't have to file bankruptcy as a band or whatever when we got home.
It's important. It's expensive to travel internationally, and to have that support system, man. I'm sure that did wonders for the mental psyche as well on this trip for you guys.
Yeah, it's nice not to have to like worry about shaking down a promoter at the end of the night or something like that, or what I mean. Like it's all gonna be wired to you later. And it was nice too to be like to Feverchild every night, being like, "Are you guys good?" And they're like, "Yeah, this is easy compared because they're on the same boat as us as far as they've booked all their own tours up until now. I don't know if this is announced yet, but I don't really care. They were signed to Avocado while we were out on tour with them. Now they'll be having representation over there.
Awesome.
Avocado's pretty like known for bringing bands from the US over to Europe, but I'm trying to see if they can bring Feverchild over here.
Yeah, man.
But
That'd be great.
They have to get that new LP out first. So
yeah.
Hopefully,
Speaking of new
get
LPs, Squint's got one coming, big hand, my man. So let's get into some of that. I know October 25th is going to be here sooner rather than later. We're less than 30 days away as we're recording for the new album coming out, and you guys got the 3 singles out already. Let's talk about how that's being received already. I know from my perspective, from a fan perspective, from a guy who tries to keep a pulse on what's going on musically and everything, I've seen a lot of love. Are you guys feeling that love on your side?
Yeah, it's been awesome. We definitely, we're the most proud of this material yet. So it definitely feels good to put it out into the world and not have it just be like crickets, and people not care about it. Seeing the live responses has been awesome. Like I said, a lot of, times there were people singing along at the shows in Europe, and a lot of times those were new songs, which is exciting. The fact that those are getting in front of people and people are connecting with them well enough to like already know choruses and stuff like that. And then it's just also, it's cool to be like halfway across the world and be like, I wrote this song about my girlfriend, and now, this, kid's singing it, to me. So,
yeah, that is awesome.
Yeah. And just seeing like people who weren't familiar with our set, or like some of the Feverchild dudes admittedly hadn't really like, they knew what we sounded like, but they don't really listen to Squint, and just naturally them being like, I really like this song and this song. And we're like, nice. Those are our new songs, It feels good to be going in more of just like a direction that people, like when you get an unbiased take like that, yeah, they're able to, and then, those same people, you could see by the end that they were like singing along to parts of it. And it feels good knowing that it's like, you've only heard this song live, really. The same kind of thing as I was saying with them, where it's like, you've only ever seen a song live, meaning you've only heard it probably like 15 times in your life and you already know the words. Like that's a good sign. So
absolutely.
All the music video stuff's been a lot of fun as far as with the new stuff we got coming and the Pack Rat video we shot and all that. And,
yes. Yeah, I'm really loving the new singles. Of course, we had Pack Rat as track of the week when we do our weekly tracks of the week. And boy, I just love the relatability with this stuff. You guys, of course, had the No Echo article that came out as well. And it was 5 records that inspired the debut of this album. And I had talked to you at the show about it. And I was like, man, I don't know why I never got it before, but I can totally see Lit, Everclear, Third Eye Blind, some of those records that you guys named as being huge inspirations behind some of the new sound. And now I can't unsee it. And in fact, after we were all at that show hanging out, went home the next day. I was like, I'm going to go down to Nostalgia Lane and play those first 2 Everclear records again, and I was like, man, that was, it still holds up today. Just like the punchiness of the guitars on the new tracks and everything. Like it just totally stands out to me. It's totally of that era while still being in the hardcore hemisphere as well.
Thank you. Yeah. It, a lot of that is, our guitarists, especially like Ian and Dave, the ones who respectively both said Everclear and Lit, they have a very like clear kind of, idea of what they want. And, Ian as always says, it may not be his like favorite album of all time. Like there might be a couple skips to him, but like as far as production, So Much for the Afterglow is his favorite. Just, he's like, they're so all over the place with so much stuff that they do and their layering of acoustics. And I mean, he could talk forever about it, but it's stuff that I don't really consider. And from coming from like a more like hardcore background, a lot of times, like when I first saw them bust the acoustic guitar out in the studio, I was getting worried. But like, there's just so much to production that I didn't understand before Squint that I now understand as far as how you really do achieve like a sound and like an effect and like because it didn't take long for them to show me like like, well, you love this Sugar album and there's acoustic guitars in the background of all of it. And I'm like, damn, you're right. I've never noticed that,
Right.
I just thought that was, you really don't like dive into what all that is. So
you guys are really locking into dynamics, I noticed, with these new singles too, and it kind of relates back to those things that we talked about before, like with that Everclear album, going back and listening to some of that stuff, so much for the Afterglow, and records adjacent to it. I could definitely hear you guys tapping into and how that translated from like the quiet, loud stuff, even bands like the Pixies, kind of synonymous as a signature to their sound. And, you know, I know you guys infamously recalled the Pissed Off Pixies at once. One of my favorite things to throw at somebody if they haven't heard of you guys. I'm like, yeah, they're kind of like Pissed Off Pixies now. So I've borrowed that. But yeah, you know, it's you guys are just adding a lot of new wrinkles to the game, or maybe they were already there and you're accentuating it more. It's just very obvious with these new tracks.
Thank you. Yeah, there's a lot more, you know, on the record still. That's like, you know, to come out. So we're excited to get everybody to hear it. We actually have the vinyl in hand at the point. Like, I don't have one on me at the moment, but we got them shipped to us over in Europe. So we were selling the vinyl the entire time we were in Europe. So yeah, sorry to all the locals, but yeah, the Europeans got it first and the UK. But
that's okay.
But yeah, I mean, the response to that so far has been awesome. We were telling everybody at the shows, you know, when we were not giving them, but, you know, we were selling them the record.
Right.
To please hit us up on social media and let us know what they think of it and stuff like that. So, yeah, you know, if anyone from the UK or Europe's listening, they may already know the whole album front to back. But, yeah, there's a lot, you know, like, I think the 3 singles do a very good job of representing most of what's on the album as a whole. Definitely once this 4th single drops, that'll be like, you know, I really think that kind of balance, you know, represents the other 25% of the record a little bit. So like, not that it all sounds super different, but
sure.
This fourth single we got coming out is a little more, it was the one that when I first heard it, I was like, this is like if the American Pie soundtrack needed like an extra song, this riff is it, you know? So
nice.
I don't want to say it's more poppy, but it's a little more, if you haven't been hearing like the Everclear kind of lit kind of thing thus far, you definitely will off this next single. But yeah, it was funny too. The whole time we were in Europe, Dave was sound checking with My Own Worst Enemy by Lit, and you could just see people in the crowd who were like talking, you know, and stuff, being like, what is that? I know that, but I don't, what is that?
Sure.
You know?
Yeah.
And then, yeah, Dave likes to do this thing too that I love where like they'll be playing they were playing like Turning Point over the intercom or over the PA. Then they'd cut it so we can sound check. And Dave would just start, he always just sound checks with like the riff from the last song that was playing over the PA. I think it's just like such a funny thing to, you know, just,
it is.
It's like such a flex, just being like,
definitely,
I can hear this riff and know how to play it, you know, so.
I love it. Well, I know one thing that we had talked about that I love so much about the new music that was coming out as well was kind of particularly going right back to Pack Rat, was the auxiliary percussion stuff that was being implemented and everything. And again, just those production elements being infused into this album making as well. And I know, you know, some of that was a journey for you. You've already kind of detailed some of that with regards, you know, the acoustic guitar being implemented. Was there anything outside of those 2 things that we mentioned going in and the production on this album, recording with Jon Markson, and just that was so eye-awakening for you personally as a musician?
What was kind of mind-blowing to me was like the simplicity that's went into some of it, you know, like my vocals. He told me we're not really going to do much with them, you know, like we were doing so much with everything else as far as, you know, that, and that's what keeps you like a raw hardcore band, or your vocals. So, you know, it's not like, you know, not like we're not going to mix them or anything like that, but we're not going to, you know, worry about throwing a bunch of effects or anything like that on them, or doing like multiple vocal takes or anything like that. Like we just want to keep it pretty true to like the live show. And so like, just, you know, doing like one take of something and him being like, that was perfect. And I'm like, really? You know, and then you'd play it back and, you know, it'd be like, you know, not like we rushed through any of it or anything like that, but it was just like sometimes to spend hours on it, it's just that one take, or, you know, or if you're not getting it right at that second, you know, let's go do a whole different song. And then, you know, we finish the different song and he hits spacebar and he's like, hey, remember that line from earlier that was giving you a hard time? Just yell that again. And I just yell it again. And he'd be like, that was it, you know, and it's like, sometimes you just got to clear your head like that. So on my end, that was all, you know, cool to come into understanding of. But yeah, watching the other guys who, you know, obviously they know their instruments very well and stuff. So it's not like a surprise to me when they come in extremely prepared. But hearing Dave or Ian or Will be like, you know, I want to do this, but I want to see how it sounds ran through this with this and this. John's just like, oh, I hear you, man. And like just pulls it all out in like 30 seconds. You know what I mean? Like all these words that don't mean anything to me. And they're just like, yeah, we're going to run the hoopty doopty through the discombobulator. And then we're going to do it with the, you know, the rinky dink. And we're going to, and then it just comes out sounding so sick. And you're just like, okay, well, these guys know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And then also, just Jon is really like, he gets very like lost in what he's doing and like very like, it's not like he cares about the song more than the band, but to an extent, it's like you can tell working with him sometimes that there's like nothing else but the song to him at
Sure.
that moment,
Yeah.
and to the point where like he's getting excited and he's suggesting things as far as like, dude, if you really want that sound, we should wrap this in aluminum foil and we should, that's really going to make it more crinkly sounding,
Yeah.
just little things like that where it's,
That's awesome.
and then it was nice having him and our engineer Rob, just like any weird little idea that we had, they would run with us on, just like explored every like kind of avenue with us that we wanted to go down, even if like at first, we'd tell Jon an idea and he'd be like, okay, sure, and then we'd do the whole thing that would take like 2 hours to finally achieve like the sound we wanted, and we'd hear it on the song, and he'd just be like looking at us and we'd be like, I don't think that's it, and he'd be like, yeah, I kind of thought that from the beginning, but I wanted you guys to come to that realization on your own,
Sure.
So I mean, it's just nice to have someone that, because there was other times that we did stuff like that and it ended up staying on the song, and he was like, yes, that's awesome, now I see what you're trying to do, or like halfway through the recording, you could see like the light bulb click in his head and be like, oh, now I get it. Okay, yeah, I'm totally on board, So
yeah,
usually, I think you think about, it's almost like going in with the producer and you have this confidence in the producer, that like they're gonna know best, you know what I mean?
sure.
And I liked Jon's like approach to it, where it's almost like, hey, I don't necessarily know best, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
you guys, this is, I just have my opinion, but I'm just a guy who likes music, basically. So, it's
right. What I love when everybody comes to those collaborative moments with no humility, because I feel like that yields the best results, And going to somebody like him, present day, he's a great producer. I could an engineer, like I could see people being intimidated by that situation, but if that's how he's starting the conversation, man, like that's just an environment for positive things to happen.
Yeah, in general, like the whole, it was, he understood when, like before we even got there, what we were going for. I mean, we came in also very like prepared compared to a lot of other bands that he works with. Like, a lot of the other bands he works with right in the studio a lot more. We like didn't even really do any pre-production there. We made, I forget what the term is, but we, tracked everything before we got out there, and we did change a couple things once we were, we sat down, we played all the songs with him and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And we, changed a couple things around, but largely, everything stayed the same, and with a pretty clear idea of what it is we wanted to do, and also just knowing that he was capable of achieving that, so we went into it very much, like it was nice to also be familiar with his work and be like, these are things we love about what you've done with past records. But, like we want this one to be a little more gritty, a little more like imperfect in some parts, like obviously, if a drum's off beat or something like that, we're going to, fix that. We don't want like imperfections, but like,
right.
Very feedbacky. We want it to be like a rock, record. It's not like a power pop record,
Yeah.
There's influences of that stuff, but yeah, it doesn't need to be super polished.
Sure.
Yeah,
that like just to hammer in on that point, again, everything goes back to a lot of like what the guitar sound is on these new albums to me. And there's just a punchiness or rawness there and angst there, maybe even more so than what was in the past in the sound. But it all really has to do with the production elements, I think, on this occasion, because you guys have always had it in you.
Thank you. Yeah. Jon did a great job of just understanding what we wanted and, helping us achieve that. We're already like working on another, new music and stuff like that. And I would love to go back to Jon.
Yeah.
We don't have any set plans at the moment for anything. We're just, really trying to hit the road in the new year with this new record and stuff like that.
Well, speaking of, I know you guys have at least some shows announced coming up as well, but before we get there, of course, the new record, of course, is Big Hand, and it's out October 25th, available on Sunday Drive. And I know I pre-ordered mine, so folks, get out there while supplies last, right? Let's get a first edition of these boys and buy a shirt while you're at it. Let's support Squint, because this is some incredible new music, without question.
Thank you. Yeah, they're going quick already, as far as we sold a lot over in Europe, and then I think, our next show coming up is, it's not announced at the moment, but it'll be the beginning of November. It'll be our record release over at Atomic.
Okay.
They're reopening their little. It used to be the demo.
Right. Yeah, I used
that
to
little
there.
build. Yeah. That little tiny, for anyone any of the younger cats or anything who don't know about this, it's in the Grove. It's right next to Atomic Cowboy, and it's just like a small little 250 cap room.
Yeah.
With an excellent size stage for stage dives, and
For sure.
yeah, it's gonna be sick. November 9th at Atomic.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, it's a small little like 250 cap room. It's gonna be, I think it's us, Light Future, Volition, Prevention. I think that's it. I think it's just a 4-band show. Yeah, tickets will probably go on sale in the near future for that. I think we probably will do tickets just because this is like a 250 cap.
Yeah.
I mean, last time Prevention played Platypus, there was like 100 people there. You know, it's like them alone are gonna.
Yeah.
But so yeah, that'll be happening, and then we have that Soft Kill show at the end of the year.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, I'll definitely be there at Off Broadway, right?
Yep. Yeah, that'll be a dope one. I've actually not got to catch Soft Kill yet, so I'm excited about that.
Same.
And then we're playing Snow and Flurry coming up. I guess that'll technically be our next show, just not the next local one. That's a festival up in Minneapolis. We're playing next month, the same day as a couple friends, like this band called Burning Bush from Kansas City. They just put out a really good demo. They're playing that day. And then our friends in Apex Predator are playing. They're a band from Seattle. That's just like, have you ever heard them?
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like absolute like ignorant music in the best way.
Yes.
Yeah, a couple of those guys play in a band called Prim that are on Sunday Drive Records. They just put out an LP, and actually the song on their new LP, Cruisin', I lend some guest vocals to.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, you should check out Prim for sure.
I'll check out Prim for sure.
It's like Teenage Fan Club, Dinosaur Jr. kind of.
Hell yeah.
Remember that band Yuck?
You're damn right. I remember Yuck. I love them. That first record was magic.
Really big Yucks from them, or Yuck vibes from them. So
yeah, you
should definitely check out their record. And then they hit me up to do some vocals for a song.
That's awesome.
I was honored to do it. So yeah, Apex Predator, their other band, is playing the same day of Snow and Flurry as us. Tsunami's playing that day, so that'll be.
Love them.
I can't wait to just watch. Just like violence happen.
Yeah, dude, that's devastation right there. Yeah, that's an event.
Yeah, I think Ingrown is also playing the same day as us.
Love those dudes.
There's a lot of
good
cool
power
stuff
violence
going on.
Yeah, Ingrown's tight as well. I caught them at the Jive Bomb, Fleshwater, and Harm's Way show at the Duck Room last October, I think it was. And Ingrown fucking killed it, man. Oh, so good, so good, so tight. 3-piece. Damn, Boise boys are great.
I'm excited to see it. Yeah, I also should. It's not the day we're playing, but I have to shout out my friends in Space. Obviously, are playing Snow and Flurry. That's awesome. Sunday.
Awesome.
And then Blistered Spirit from here in St. Louis, they're playing that Sunday as well. So
hell yeah,
that's another dope band that they've got some members kind of scattered, so they don't play St. Louis a whole ton. But
sure,
you know, it's metalcore for people of our age group.
I gotcha.
Reminiscent of like, I guess like 18 Visions and stuff like that, and like Trust Killed Records kind of stuff.
Yeah. Love that stuff.
I gotta shout them out. Yeah, those are my boys.
Yeah. Speaking of 18 Visions, I'm going to be going to Furnace Fest next week, so I'm super fucking pumped. I was hoping to get those the pre-show tickets for the Marauder show. It's got Zayo on it as well. I think Counterparts is the headliner. But yeah, man, I haven't secured those yet. But but I got the 3-day pass, so going to be enjoying that. It's going to be a huge nostalgia trip. Last Furnace Fest.
I haven't seen the full lineup for Furnace Fest. I know I have a couple friends bands playing and stuff. If you get the chance to check out Cold Hard Steel, you should watch them.
Okay.
It's actually one of my friends who used to play in Marauder. He's not like one of the OG members, but he's like a dude who, you know, out of time used to tour. He'd always book us in Mississippi and stuff like that. And then a couple years later, I was like, you know, on Facebook, like, I wonder what this dude's up to. And then I clicked his page and it was like playing for Marauder, and I was like, holy shit, whoa.
God damn.
But yeah, he's got a band now. It's just like hard. You know, I mean, the band's called Cold Hard Steel. You can get an idea of what it sounds like, but it's, you know, graffiti logo, hard ass hardcore.
Yeah. They just put out the actual schedule of the bands last week, and I went through and marked up everything. But like any bands that are in the earlier blocks, which I think they are, I forget which day that they played, but like I was like open to whatever, so like I'm gonna probably like walk around and see whatever catches my ear on those earlier slots. But I find myself at the hardcore stage mostly. I'm finding on the schedule, but there's a few, Glitterer, I'm gonna catch some of that, for nostalgia's sake. I want to catch a little bit of Emery at some point. There are other bands I got to make some sacrifices on, but I'll be mainly St. Louis's own Not Waiting But Drowning. Going to be catching them there as well. I got friends in that band. Calvin McRoy shots out there, playing actually tonight with Blight Future, I believe, at Off Broadway as we're recording this. So
I was gonna say I knew I saw flyers for that, but I didn't realize it was tonight.
Yeah,
that was a little before my time, but I remember seeing their names on their name on flyers a lot growing up.
Yeah, they were pretty much done by like 2002, and then they had a few reunion shows. Band I was in played played one of their reunion shows. I think it's Cicero's. A bunch of great guys, and they're going to go out. They played, I think, almost every Furnace Fest. They didn't play last year, but they played like 5 or 6 of them. I think this will either be their 6th or 7th. So yeah, these guys are OG Furnace Fest, band, I guess. One of the many. Well, Britton, it has been a pleasure catching up with you. I'm so excited about the new album, Big Hand, October 25th, folks. It's going to be available everywhere. If you haven't heard the new singles, we're going to have the links in the episode details for folks to check out. I know that typically the best place to stay in touch with what you guys have going on. I know that you guys keep up with the socials, but I know I follow you on Instagram. That's where I see you guys most active at. We'll, of course, have all that information in the episode details so you guys can stay in tune with what Britton and Squint have going on. Man, I'm so pumped for you guys, so excited for you guys. I see you guys, not to say you don't have some notoriety, but man, I just see you guys blowing up with this new record.
Thank you guys. Things are on an upward trajectory, which is all I can really ask for. As long as, it's growing and not shrinking, then I'm doing my job for the most part. So,
For sure.
Excited to get it out, excited for the world to hear it. And, Crawl Back, the next single, should be dropping soon. So keep an ear to the ground for that.
Hell yeah.
And then we'll see you guys on October 25th. And
yep.
Oh yeah, I got to plug. We're not playing this or anything, but Halloween at Platypus, everybody should roll out. Public Opinion, who just dropped an incredible new record, are playing along with our friends in Discern and locals Different Damage and Family Medicine. So it should be a pretty sick little gig.
I haven't caught Family Medicine live, but I've heard good things. Public Opinion, you had mentioned the last time we talked on the episode, that is. And I actually checked out that new record, and man, I fucking love it. I've got some of my friends turned on to it. It's great. It came out earlier this month. I think it came out September 6th. But yeah, man, some of my favorite tracks on that are like Wear and Tear, Stethoscope, Some Don't, Hothead. So if you guys just want to like window shop, hear a track, those are my personal favorites off of that.
Yeah, there's a lot on that record. There's a lot of range.
Absolutely.
My friend Kevin, who sings in that band, he said it on Axe to Grind. But between that record, between the new Military Gun, between the new Drug Church, between the new Squint, it's an adjacent fall, baby.
Love it.
Hardcore adjacent fall, but
I absolutely love it, man. I'm looking forward to it. And one thing I want to encourage folks to do when you're window shopping Big Hand and the songs on it, let's check out Britton's lyrics. Britton's got some incredible lyrics too. I might be butchering this, but the line about I'd lay down at your feet so that you'd feel 10 feet tall. I don't know, that resonated with me for whatever reason, man. And I kind of choked up a little bit. I'm like, God damn, man. I have felt like so many times in life, just telling you right now about it. I got goosebumps, so, it's
that song,
a lot of incredible stuff happening, coming from Britton in particular too.
Appreciate that. Yeah. I wrote that song about my girlfriend specifically, but it's been cool to see. I mean, mostly just a song about wanting to lift someone up who see hurt, and not being capable of doing that, and just the frustration you feel within that, where it's like, I would give anything for me to go through this and not for you to.
Absolutely.
I wrote it about her, like I said, and then I sent the record around to some very close people to me and stuff. And my friend Jonah, who sings in the band Strange Joy, he hit me up about it, just being like, bro, I straight up was like crying when I first heard this song, and he's like, just makes me think about my son so much and like how I feel about him, and like it means a lot to like mean things to different people, and then just also, like Feverchild connected a lot with that song when we were playing it on tour, and it's a cool feeling to be like, especially when you're unsure about, I've, having only really played in hardcore bands, I've never written a love song before, so
yeah, I hear you.
I didn't know how that would be perceived to a certain extent.
For sure.
Yeah. And it's nice on this new record. I show a lot more vulnerability in a lot of departments, like lyrically, but also just,
in the performance.
Yeah, just like letting my guard down as far as, and just my preconceived notions of, any kind of like ideals I may have to uphold or anything as, a self-identified person rooted in hardcore. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, it's not like I have to prove anything at this point. It's kind of like what you were saying earlier at the beginning of the interview about how, like, you don't feel the need to shit on things as much, or you don't feel
Sure.
the need to put things in a box as far as like good or bad or anything anymore.
Yeah.
I definitely consider myself more of a musician than I ever have, like in my life, as
Yeah.
far as like, not just being like a punk or a hardcore kid, but
Sure,
actually
sure.
being like a student of music, at this point now. And, it's allowed a lot of like vulnerability as far as what I'm comfortable
Sure.
with. And
I'm a firm believer there's always exceptions to the rule. So if you don't like country, you don't like rap or whatever, a particular genre or subgenre, there's always exceptions to the rule. So always have an open ear. What I do as a listener is no matter what somebody's presenting to me, I try to identify at least one thing that I like about what I'm hearing. Whether it's
Smart.
just the tone of somebody's voice, a guitar line in a certain part, it can be that specific, it can be more vague, just the atmosphere of the song. Why not try to look for the beautiful things in life and not focus on the negatives, So I can't encourage people
Definitely.
enough. There's a lot of beautiful things happening with the new Squint music. And man, I'm such a big fan and so happy for you guys. Can't wait to see where it goes.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it.
Hey there, this is Barrett from the ATI Podcast here to talk about what we have going on the ATI Podcast Network. First, we'll start with Waxing On with R and J. The format of Waxing On with R and J is audible selections made exclusively by our hosts and brothers, Ridge Jackson and Jake Jackson. Waxing On with R and J is sure to tickle your inner eardrums with some of the most vile tones you've ever encountered, and conversely, ear candy with pop melodies, focusing on spotlighting underground and rising artists. Waxing On with R&J is another outlet of the ATI podcast community to bring awareness to many musicians' craft. Also found on the ATI Podcast Network, Nod Narb's Closet, hosted by Brandon Stewart of Edos Inn. Nod Narb's Closet is a wing of the ATI podcast programming that delves into the world of role-play games, miniature painting, diorama making, occasional pro wrestling match watch-alongs, providing commentary with a dash of jocularity and satire, and much, much more. Of course, leading the pack is the ATI Podcast. On the ATI Podcast, we episodically invite guests onto our show to spotlight their talents, whether that's musicians, filmmakers, artists, actors, businesses, even athletes. Nothing is off the table. The focus of the ATI Podcast and its collective creative arms, whether that's waxing on with R and J, or Nod Nard's Closet is to bring awareness and focus to people's talents. Be sure to follow us across all traditional podcasting platforms, and for the full experience, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Just search the ATI podcast. Stay safe out there.